like it. So TR3 cams, will they work on Flash Pro? Well, this is a relevant question to your setup. Will they work on any setup on Flash Pro? No. Will they work on any setup on Motec? Yeah, sure. Because Motec will do whatever you ask it to, and you have access to all the tables and charts. What is good about TR3 cams compared to TR2 cams? Well, TR3 cams absolutely hit harder. You hear that VTEC crack is much more audible. It's definitely more noticeable. As far as being like daily driver friendly, yes, it's a daily driver friendly car cam. The thing is, with running Flash Pro and cold start and big injectors, the car definitely gets fussy for like the first 20 seconds. Definitely, it's pretty common when you start getting with fairly aggressive componentry with a factory-based computer control system. Now, let me just kind of do this in way. Pros and cons. Cons. Significant reduction in highway MPG. Anything over 55, 60 miles an hour, absolute reduction in MPG. The NA power, as I would call it, that low RPM, partial throttle, no boost power, seems to be less. Spool time is equal compared to the TR2 cams. Let me see. And controllability using Flash Pro is very difficult. Just to put this in perspective, my highway MPG, it used to be around 32 miles to the gallon at 75 miles an hour. It's in the 20s now at 75 miles an hour. So that's just something to keep in mind. And that's just got to do with the fact the bigger lift in the cams. The TR3 cams have about 3/4 of an inch higher lift versus the TR2 cams. And because there's no VTEC on the intake side, that lift is there all the time. So that low RPM power is reduced some. Now, high RPM power, absolutely noticeable. That's for the pros. Much better high RPM power. When I say much better, definitely better than TR2 cams. Because TR2 cams compared to the factory cam is a massive upgrade. But TR2 to TR3 cams, it's again still noticeable yet. Now, it's not as drastic as the difference as, you know, stock versus TR2 cams, but it's definitely noticeable, and the VTEC crack is definitely louder. You can hear it in the TR2 cams, but it's more subtle. With the TR3 cams, you hear it every single time. It doesn't blend in at all. But to put this in perspective, though, and I can't answer if it's actually because the TR3 cams spool even better than TR2s, but with a large 101 housing on a G3900 on my car, let me get to a somewhat straight area here. I can hit 25 pounds by 5,000 RPM, which is for a G3900 is very good, especially with the 101 housing, because usually even with the .83 housing on a stock cylinder head stock cam motor, it's going to hit 25, 26 pounds by about 5,200. So not only do I have a bigger housing on here, I'm hitting that boost still yet earlier. So, and you hear the VTEC crack every time. But, another con, you're going to require on Flash Pro to have some sort of supplemental fueling. What I mean, you're going to have either This is because in Flash Pro, the car's a math tune, but it's also somewhat speed density. So it's a math / speed density tune. It's a blended tune. So the problem is it's always taking from those base VE charts. And when you put cams in a car, you completely alter those volumetric efficiency charts. Like, it's massively different. The whole, so when you port the head, you just kind of have to add, it just adds everywhere on these cars. Whereas when you put cams in them, you got to pull a bunch out from the low RPM area when you put a heavier cam in it, versus the high RPM. You know, it might even out with the fuel offset. It really just depends on the cam and the characteristic of the motor. But to put this in perspective, I have come up with a way to tune both stock cams. Not sure why that stopped there, but I have come up with a way to tune both regular cams and TR2 cams without using a MAF housing, using Honda. So I'm not going to get into the details of that, because that is 100% proprietary, and I have worked this out, and I've done it on 2000cc injectors with no mass airflow sensor. But I'm going to warn you yet again in advance, it's going to hurt MPG, and that very light throttle, that light part throttle is, it's kind of lost. It's not as smooth. So, but that's in a nutshell TR3 cams, and let me give a little. So I have the factory traction really kind of kicking in a lot here. Not the factory traction, the Honda traction. I've adjusted the PID table so it can take out 20 degrees of timing and more, and do it like super fast. So I won't spin even a higher boost in third. But on 20 degrees of timing on 22, 23 pounds, even with a 315 3517 R888, if I turn off the traction control, like here, let me do this. Let me turn it off, because you can turn it off using. There we go. So you can see that if I turn the traction back on, like I just went nowhere. But you get the general idea. And this is with the 101 housing. You know, this is not an 83 housing. This is a G3900 with a 101 housing with a full exhaust, and with 10 degrees less timing from the max timing that the car will take on a ported head, with the cams on the fuel I'm on, and it just knocks the tires off the car like it's nothing. It definitely, you know, but I would not say that you would go to any of your normal Fk8 tuners for a TR3 cam tune. You do it a TR2 cam and they can work it out, and that's fine. A fair amount of tuners can, you know, I should say only a couple tuners can do the TR2 cams correctly, but the TR3 cams without supplemental fuel is just not going to happen. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, we go to Red Star, this and that, they can do all this stuff, but you don't see what I see in the background. You know, you don't see the problems that I see with the setups, where they create other problems down the road, where it works for a fourth gear pull on the dyno, and like, oh yeah, they tuned it, and then they go on the street and they get all these messages and complaints of problems with the cars. So just keep that in mind. This is very specialized to do TR3 cams on a Flash Pro. I'm not saying that to hog the money here. I'm saying that because that's just the truth. See, like there, that little brit that you guys just heard, that's one of those quarks because the ECU is trying to blend the MAF sensor and the background VE table, which is no longer accurate. So that will happen no matter what you do with TR3 cams. There's no way to get around that, and it will do it somewhere between 2300 RPM and 2750 RPM. That's just what happens, because you can't really get into those true speed density tuning charts that are blended with the mass airflow. But that's it. Fk8 tuning development signing out. Y'all have a great happy holidays and Merry Christmas or whatever it is that you celebrate.